you're very welcome to Belgium. I know you came over to Holland for the first time, but what brings you to this part of the world?
Well, I came, I think my first trip here was, I want to say it was 2017, I think it was. I was in Kansas City back in the States at a music conference at the Folk Alliance International. And it was Saturday night. It was after all the main showcases, and they had the room showcases after the ballroom big production shows. They would have these hotel rooms converted into little venues. So, you'd go in there and sing your songs just a cappella or live or just acoustic. And so anyway, I'm walking down the halls. It's just chaos, absolute chaos. And it's 2:30 in the morning, something like that. And I'm going home back to my room because I have to fly out early in the morning. And a dear friend of mine, Brian Ashley Jones, a wonderful musician in the States, he says, Wyatt, he calls me and says, come, you have to meet this friend of mine, which was Clementine Volker. And so I came over there and she turns around and I go, whoa, here's a lot of energy right here. And we talked for maybe 10 minutes or so and exchanged pleasantries. And I think maybe she'd been to one of my showcases or something and said, yeah, I like your stuff. And I just mainly remember as I said, guys, I got to go to bed. I got to get up so early in the morning. And as I turned to walk away, I said, by the way, I've always wanted to tour in the Netherlands. Yeah. And Clementine grabbed a card and handed it to me and said, stay in touch. And so I got home, and a couple of days later, I thought, oh, I need to stay in touch with this person. And she got back to me immediately. And this is something I learned about the Dutch, which I love. Mm. When they say something, they mean it. There's no beating around. It's just like, yes, come over and tour. They mean come over and tour. So within a month or two, she had put together this amazing tour. And I came over and we rehearsed some songs and went out. And I want to say I was there for 5 weeks the first time I came over. It was an amazing trip. I couldn't believe she was able to put it together so well and fast. But or she probably had it together and just decided to share it with me. That would be her. That's her.
That's her.
So that's how I ended up coming over. And I just love it here. I just love this whole area of the world. And Clementine and Gerben, her partner. I call him her hubby, but they've become like family to me. So
gorgeous. Yeah. So you've predominantly been a singer-songwriter based in Nashville, born in Nashville. What's your history?
Well, I wasn't born there, but I had a lot of history with Nashville. I was born in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I have always known that I wanted to be in music, even as a young child. But my father was a physician, a medical school doctor, and as such, we moved a couple of times. Once right outside of Nashville when I was just a tot, and then we moved out to Los Angeles for a couple of years, and then came back to North Carolina to Chapel Hill where my father's career was. But at the time when he got back to Chapel Hill, to the University of North Carolina Medical School, the dean of the medical school was Ike Taylor, whose son was James Taylor, and Livingston Taylor, and Hugh and Kate and the whole clan. So as a kid, I grew up at medical school functions. You might see them playing in the background, and I was just always fascinated with it. And of course, by the time he was 21 or so, he was this international star, and I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
So that was kind of gave you the spark anyway.
Well, it was just I don't, even when we were living in California, I had this inkling that I wanted to be. I remember being on the playground. I haven't told this story in years, and all the kids are standing around saying, "Well, I'm going to be a firefighter, or I'm going to be a policeman," and I said, "Well, I'm going to be a singer." And they said, "You can't do that." I said, "Well, why not? Why not?" And I remember that so well.
So
but
just you were already kind of
I just love to sing.
Yeah,
I just did. Why not? It's funny. I was about 15, and I think a lot of songwriting is born out of tragedy. A young friend of ours was killed in a car wreck, and I wrote a song about that, and that was the first song that I actually wrote from beginning to end. And then if I'm truly honest, I found it easier to write a song than it was to figure it out off the radio. Because I was teaching myself how to play the guitar, and I didn't really know enough chords or riffs, so to speak, to follow what somebody was playing until much later. But I had already kind of gotten the songwriting bug. So I love telling stories.
You sang some songs for me today, which I'm very grateful for. Can you tell me a little bit about Modern Day Drifter, the first song you sang for us today?
Absolutely. I wrote that song with a fellow by the name of John Scott Sherrill, who is a big Nashville songwriter. I had been in awe of him for years. And we had a writing session in Nashville. Your publisher would often assign you a writing afternoon or morning, what have you, with somebody. And I had John Scott Sherrill. And I had this idea, Modern Day Drifter, and brought it over to him, and we started that morning. He liked the idea a lot. I think we probably met 2 or 3 times. And I remember taking it to my publisher after we did what they call a demo, where we go in the studio with all the musicians, and they play. Of course, the session players in Nashville are amazing. They listen to it once, and then while they're talking about what they did over the weekend, and then they sit down and just play it flawlessly through the first time. But so we did this demo, which I thought was quite good, and I remember taking it back to my publisher, and they said, "Oh, you missed it." "What do you mean I missed it? I thought it's great." And they said, "No, you should have written it this way and that." And I said, "Well, I wrote it this way," and I was all pouty about it. And then about 6 months later, got this call from Capitol Records that Dierks Bentley, who was their artist who was selling lots and lots of records, wanted it for his next record. And so I was very happy that, and it actually became the title track, Modern Day Drifters, his sophomore release, and it did quite well, sold millions of copies. And I was very proud of that. And super nice guy.
Fantastic.
Gonna be a modern day drifter. Get out while I can. I'll trade in this life I've been living for a pocket full of sand. And the modern day drifter don't have to tell no one his plans. I'm gonna find that lost stretch of highway where no one knows my name, where as long as the sky just goes on, it's never the same. And then a modern day drifter will never complain. Bye bye, high life. It feels like the right time to say so long. I'll keep on going strong, and I'll keep on. Drifter, oh yes I am. I'll slip this ring off my finger. Everybody understands that a modern day drifter's got nothing but time on his hands. Bye bye, high life. Feels like the right time to say so long. Keep on going strong, and I'll keep on being gone. Gonna be a modern day drifter. Oh yes I am, yes I am. I'll slip this ring off my finger. Everybody understands that a modern day drifter's got nothing but time on his hands. A modern day drifter, he's got nothing but time on his hands. When I got to Nashville, that's really when I learned how to write songs. I learned, like so many other writers, from experienced songwriters. I would sit down and I think we mentioned this earlier today, that Nashville was a five-year town. If you go to Nashville and you focus on whatever aspect you want to be part of, whether it's production, songwriting, as an artist, or even an executive, you put 5 years in, and eventually you'll get you'll be able to grab hold of something and move forward with it. And for me, I was all over the map because I was an artist when I got there, but I also worked at a recording studio, and I love production. And then the songwriting was always very important, but it took a little bit of a backseat for a while. And then I got offered a position as a staff writer. And so I kind of threw everything else aside and went, oh, here's my spot. And so I started writing for this company. And the fellow who was running that company was a record label executive who had left one label and had a couple years of non-compete where he couldn't run another label. And he opened up this publishing company. And about a year or 2 years into my writing for his company, he was given an opportunity to work with Atlantic Records and open up their Nashville division. And I thought, here's my chance. I'll get a artist deal. I'll get this artist deal with this company, which I thought was a great company. Atlantic Records had all the big artists, from the Rolling Stones to Willie Nelson to Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles, and just a prestigious label. And then he says, well, I'm thinking maybe I'll get you to run the A&R department.
Oh.
And I was like, well, but I want to be an artist.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, I'll do this. It's not a gig that lasts for years upon years. So I thought, well, I'll do this a couple of years. And so I did. I signed on as the A&R chief. And I loved it. It was a great position because I could find people that were deserving, that needed a record deal, and bring them on board. So I found John Michael Montgomery. If you're a fan of country music, he was a big deal, and a fellow named Tracy Lawrence and Neil McCoy. And I worked with those guys at Atlantic Records for a number of years, and they all did quite well, sold lots of records. And then I left that position and was kind of looking around for something to do. I thought I would go back to songwriting. And then I got a call from this fellow named Miles Copeland, he wanted to meet with me and talk about possibly opening up a publishing company. And I thought, I kind of liked having a position where I could sign people that I liked and kind of create this community. And so we partnered up and had a company called Bugle Publishing Group. And that was a marvelous opportunity. I was able to bring some great songwriters together. And Miles was the manager for the Police, and Sting still was managing Sting at the time. His brother was Stuart Copeland. And Miles also had IRS Records. And I'll tell you a quick story. He flew into town. I didn't know this man very well, but we were partnered. And he flies into town, and he's pacing around in my office, and he says, "All right, we've got all these songwriters. What are we going to do with them?" I said, "Well," I was thinking, "Oh, I don't know." Then I went, "Why don't we put together a songwriting retreat?" And he looks at me and he says, "What is that?" And I explained to him that, well, you bring your artists. You have all these artists with IRS Records, and we've got all these songwriters. We bring them here into Nashville. We'll put them up at a state park or something and let them write, and then you'll have songs for your artist, and it'll all be kind of in-house. He's pacing back and forth, and he's not paying any attention to me, and I'm thinking, And then he says, "Well, I've got a chateau in the south of France. We'll do it there."
Just like that.
Just like that, and I'm thinking, a chateau. And I cringe when I think of this. I literally said, "Does it have a moat?" And he stops and he looks at me like I've just fallen off a turnip truck. And he says, "Well, of course, it's a castle." Well, okay. All right. Well, we don't have chateaus here. Within 2 months, we were there and we started this. It was called Printemps des Troubadours. But it quickly became known as the Castle. And it became such an event. We had amazing. Just amazing. We had who all came? Carole King. We had Bon Jovi. We had Peter Frampton. We had Keith Urban, of course, was writing for our company. We had all these amazing songwriters in Nashville that would come in. We had Cher, Olivia Newton-John. Just this amazing array of artists that came together at this castle.
And was the goal to
write music? Yeah. And eventually, we ended up doing this twice a year for, I guess it'd be like 2 or 3 weeks. We'd have 2 sessions, that would last 8 days or so. But it was amazing because once people got there, even Cher, who was, such a huge artist, a big star, would come in a little intimidated by the whole process. And then within 2 or 3 days, they all just let out a big sigh, and it became like a big family. So I knew these people well, for a period of time. It was, they're just people, but, Carole King, what a sweet person. And even Cher, just a big heart. And, it was a marvelous experience. But, to sit there and have Carole King in like this little grotto with a spinet piano, almost a dirt floor underneath this horse stable that's, from the Middle Ages, playing this piano at 2 a.m. with mics all over the place, and then who knows, Peter Frampton maybe playing guitar. It was just I'd have to pinch myself all the time. Yeah. Am I really here?
Your own writing process, how does it look? Is it lyric first, take notes, and then bring the guitar to it, or do you have other processes when you write a song?
Normally, for me, I'll pick up a guitar and just start messing around, noodling. I would call it noodling, hopefully in tune. And then it's amazing how when you let go and just let it show up, whatever's been on your mind of late, and if you have a hook, it's even better. Lyrics will start to pop out. And, it's not always what you end up with, but it gets you started.
Yeah.
And my experience has shown me that once you start, don't stop until you just completely run out of steam, because it's like a gift. You just start writing down what you've got, or better yet, what I do is I turn my iPhone recorder on so I don't miss anything, and then you go back and after you've had that initial moment of inspiration, run with that as long as you can. And I've heard others, Paul McCartney says the same. He says, hey, once you get that inspiration, don't stop until it runs out, peters out. Then you come back and it's like, it's probably like a sculptor with clay. I mean, you get the general idea of what it is you're doing, and then you go back and fine tune. It's much like that.
And how different is that then from, say, co-writing? Would you find that to be the same process, or is that a more difficult process for you, or an easier process for you, or again, does it vary depending on the person?
You know what? Honestly, I think it depends on the co-writer and how they approach it. I have ground rules, if you will. I call it protocols or etiquette, and that is that there are no dumb ideas. Nothing stupid is ever said in a co-writing session, so that anybody can throw out any idea, and because you never know. I may say something that on the surface looks like a dumb response, or maybe not even related to the topic, but it sparks something in someone else, and it comes back around, and so you never know. The inputs are very important, but co-writing, if you're in lockstep with the person, if you're especially if you've written a few songs together, you begin to understand how the other person works, and it can be very, very. Look at McCartney and Lennon. So many people that co-write together like that. It can be a really wonderful experience. So,
did you co-write that song with Clementine, the Lost Child song?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I did. She called me and asked me. She was here in the Netherlands, and I was back in the States, and she said, "I have this song that I'm working on. Would you help me?" And she sent me the lyrics and that she had so far, and we went. I think it was maybe Skype at the time. Zoom wasn't around then, and we went back and forth with it, and chiseled a little here and a couple of paint strokes here and there, and I don't remember how often we worked on it, but that's
quite a personal song for Clementine. She was saying to me, So is it when you're given a personal song like that, a deeply personal song like that to work on? Are you more careful with it, I guess?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Would be.
Well, you're very respectful of the other person's emotions, or what was it that was the driving force behind the idea. So you want to be careful not to be disrespectful of that, or to take it too far off of the message. And quite frankly, even if it's a tough topic, I enjoy that. I like the challenge of having to. It's like a puzzle, to fit it in and make it so that it carries the message, but it also has a commercial appeal.
Yeah.
So that it feels like something that others would want to listen to. Because why write if it's not going to be for others to hear? So.
You have a place here safe and warm. I'll stand watch across the ocean till you're back here in my arms. I've gathered coal and tinder, prepared a bed for you to lie. When your ship returns you to us, on the deck we build a pyre. Lost child, I'm tossing breadcrumbs on the waves, but they scatter far and wide before they lead you home again. Lost child, do you feel something missing too? Do you wonder where we are as we wonder about you? fire at my core. The flames consume my childhood as the warmth evens the score. Last child, I'm tossing breadcrumbs on the waves, but they scatter far and wide before they lead you home again. Last child, do you feel something missing too? Do you wonder where we are as we wonder about you? Last child. Shadows jump against the wall where a picture hangs alone, the only remnant to remind us you were stolen from this home. Last child, I'm tossing breadcrumbs on the waves, but they scatter far and wide before they lead you home again. Last child, do you feel something missing too? Do you wonder where we are as we wonder about you? Lost child, lost child, lost child.
Clementine has come to the States a few times. She came over for a songwriting retreat that I was hosting called Song Travelers. Right after we finished that session of Song Travelers, we went in the studio there in Nashville, Tennessee, and I produced an album for her called Letting Go.
Beautiful album it is too.
Thanks. I'm very proud of that album, and especially a song that she and Robbie Hecht, who's another fine singer-songwriter in the States, and myself, we wrote at the retreat, and 2 or 3 days later, we were in the studio, and it's just a spectacular record. I'm very proud of it if I did have a hand in it. And she, of course, sings it amazingly well. It's her song. It's a song about her life growing up, the daughter of a sailor and or captain of a big dredge, very prestigious gig. But her life learning how to sail from her father and so forth. And it was a nice little route that it took, coming back to the topic of freedom. And just love the song. So.
How long did you live in Nashville, and how do you think it has changed over the years?
It's like everywhere. But Nashville, when I first got there, I was 20 years old or so, and it was a very close community, and I became a part of that community. I helped build a recording studio that was right there on Music Row, and in that period of time, everybody was around. You'd see. You'd go to a breakfast place, Max's Kitchen was what it was called, and you'd see Chet Atkins, or you'd see Waylon Jennings or Willie Nelson, or any of these people sitting there having breakfast, and nobody bothered them. We were all just there to do our work, and you forget sometimes when you see these people every day that it's such a magical environment. But and eventually, you get to know them a little bit. I would see Waylon, who I eventually had a good relationship with. I'd see him sometimes. His studio was right next to a little package store, and they had a line of pinball machines. And it might be 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd go in there to get some coffee or cigarettes or whatever I smoked back then. And he'd be in there with maybe Tom Paul Glazier or some other person playing pinball with his hat back like this and a cigarette dangling out of his mouth. And I'd walk by, and he'd say, "Hey, Hoss." And I'd walk around to get my coffee and leave. And so it was a very interesting time to be in Nashville because people were accessible. And then once the 90s hit and just country music blew up, everything changed a bit. We were all still excited because everybody was having so much success.
Did it become over commercial, do you think? To a certain extent?
It did become very commercial, and once the thing is, a record label. At that time, I was working with Atlantic Records, and you start. This is the business world. We started selling boatloads of records, millions of records. We used to be happy with 500,000 units moved, but when you start selling millions of records, the other coast, New York and LA, start taking notice, and suddenly somebody wants to come in from those coasts to show you how it's done, right? And we're like, I think we're doing okay by ourselves. So it changed a little bit like that. And then it became more, as it became more profitable, it became a little more rigid. We didn't have as much freedom. Ironically, they would kind of pull back on what we were doing, and I think that's a mistake that all industries suffer. You get the bean counters in there trying to be creative, and that's wrong. I can promise you now. I can say that without any worry at this point in my life, that when the bean counters come in and decide that they're the creatives, it's over. So,
Tell me about this old house.
I was in actually in Nashville doing a photo shoot for the social media. This is how much it's changed now. Instead of publicity departments, you have a social media. And I was sitting on the front porch of this house way out in the country that they wanted to do a photo shoot, and I thought, oh God, like this has never been done before. And but I had these two wonderful young professionals. They were conversing over here about what to do next on this shoot and blah, 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 blah. And I was bored to tears, and I had my guitar, so I started this old house. And I started the song, and it was probably 6 or 7 months later, I was back in Nashville, because at this point I moved back to North Carolina. And I was having trouble with the song because I didn't have this inspiration to really finish it, because I had never had a house that I grew up in that was torn down or leveled. And but then I started driving around Music Row and seeing all the studios that I'd worked in and that were being leveled, and they're putting up these condos, and they're changing the face of the town. But the studios, they were being pushed out like the deer in the town. They'd have to go out further and further from the center of town. But I thought about this town that I knew so well, every little nook and cranny. I just knew where all the studios were and the publishing houses, and where everyone, everything from who was in what closet, what skeletons were in what closet. And the song just came together just like that. It was like, okay, this is what's been torn down for me. So that's a long way around talking about the story of the house. But
it's a beautiful song. We'll give it a listen.
Well, this old house, it's where my story first begins. I got the word that progress was moving in. There's a beat up bulldozer revving up in the drive. Strange to think this will be our final goodbye. It's a shame to see the old girl going out this way, so far removed from her glory days. The vines have grown twisted across the front gate, a homeless scene behind Mother Nature's crime tape. This old house will always be a part of me. Now you can holler away, but in my heart she'll remain. I'm leaving here with Polaroids and forgotten dreams. I outgrew like a pair of worn out dreams. Peering down the front hall behind these kicked-in doors, the dust and rain have done a number on these hardwood floors. Some local kids have been camping out here and partying late. We used to do the same thing too at that age. Watch the cars whizzing by out on the new interstate. Now some would call that progress, and some would call that fate. I remember kissing Kate any chance on that front porch swing. I heard she lost a battle back in the early spring. Still it's gonna be alright. I can call her to mind any old time I need a childhood frame of mind. Now this old house, it'll always be the part of me where you can holler away, but in my heart she'll remain. I'm leaving here with Polaroids and forgotten dreams. I outgrew like a pair of worn out jeans. Now this old house, it's where my story first begins. I got the word that progress was moving in.
I wanted to ask you about this whole Corona thing. What were you doing up to Corona? Were you touring? Did tour stop for you? Were you working on something? Are you working on something?
I am, yes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, like everyone, life was moving along. I had my goals set out, what I wanted to do and achieve, and had literally had just been here. I was here in the Netherlands, and had gone into the studio in September of that year of 2019, and had recorded a bunch of songs. Actually, This Old House, I'd recorded that, and wasn't overly happy with the overall product. There were things about it that I liked, and then things I wanted to redo. So I was busy planning that, and then actually came over here and toured with Clementine, Volker, and then got back home and went off to, that was the year that we had our big music convention down in New Orleans. And Clementine actually came over for that. That was fun. We ran all over New Orleans and had a good time visiting and doing some showcases together and so forth. And she went on from after that to, I think, to Sundance Film Festival. I went back home to work more on the record. And then it shut down. It just, like overnight, everything I had lined up to work on. Thank God for me, I had a studio at home, so I could continue to work, and which is a blessing and a curse, because if you don't have a studio clock ticking away the dollars every minute, you spend way too much time. I don't think I can. I'm going to sing it this way. I'll sing it. And after a while, it's you have to fight that urge for chasing after perfection, which doesn't exist.
Indeed,
But,
is that something you were guilty of in the past? Has that changed? Your process, has that changed over the years? Are you still very picky, nitpicky
Oh
about
yeah.
certain things? Yeah.
Well, especially if I'm producing, because I want to get the very best out of the artist, and I tell them, this may be politically incorrect, but I tell them I'm a vocal Nazi, and that if it's politically incorrect, too bad. I don't care. It's my terminology. But I keep them. I make them sing it until I know I've got what I need, and then and they're always happy with it in the end, because you push them as hard as they can go, and get the best out of them, because it's a recording. It's something for life. It's not. It's not a rehearsal for a live show. It's, as you know, when you're recording, it has to be right. Otherwise, whoever's listening to it will pick up on it and know that it's not. They'll hear it. It's funny when you're listening to a record and there's a mistake in there. It goes by and your ear hears it. When it goes by again, your ear starts to pick it apart, and then when it goes by a third time, you've got it. You go, oh, listen to this.
Yeah.
Live it just goes. Nobody goes back and listens again. It's just gone.
That's right. And as a producer or as a songwriter, are you ever tempted when you're recording someone to kind of, if you hear a lyric or hear a line, to ask them to change it a certain way, or do you ever hint at that, or is that something you shy away from? You do that, do you?
No. I mean, well, a lot of the folks that I'm working with right now are not necessarily professional musicians, but they've come to my songwriting retreats and then want to record an album. And hire me to produce it. And I want them to have the best product possible.
Sure.
So, with permission, I said, well, hey, can I help you tweak this? Do this, that, and the other. And if I do just a little bit, I just kind of give it to them, under the table. If I end up, taking the song apart, then I may say, well, we're co-writers on this. But, ultimately what you want is something that's, somebody's going to want to listen to more than once, So, and I've had wonderful experiences with that. And then, of course, like working with Clementine is such a joy because she's, a real artist. Yeah. Well, not that the others aren't, but she's going to go out there and perform them. And
we call her a natural.
Yeah, she's a natural.
Yeah, she's a natural.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the next song we're going to play, "Stay in the Boat"?
This song was written, I was on tour and was literally sitting on an airplane, sitting on the tarmac waiting for everyone to get on board. And I was talking on the phone with a buddy of mine that I had known all my life. And he was a general contractor, a builder, and had a bit of a rough patch and having a hard time recovering from, the housing debacle. So he was not feeling tip-top, and we grew up together on a lake and would go fishing as kids all the time. He said, well, I'm going fishing this afternoon. I said, well, I think I was going to Calgary, Canada. And I said, I'm headed up to Calgary. I'll be up there, so I can't join you. But he said, well, if you hear my boat came in without me, you'll know I slipped over the side. And I was like, oh, Hank, time out. You can't. We don't talk like that. That's against the Geneva rules of friendship. You just can't talk like that. So we spoke for a couple more minutes, and I had to hang up because they were shutting the cabin door. And I said, well, look, I got to go. I'll call you when I get to Calgary. But in the meantime, just stay in the boat. And as we were climbing out of Nashville, is where I was leaving from, I thought, stay in the boat. Pretty good title. By the time I got to Calgary, I'd pretty well had it written. And and he's fine. I wasn't taking advantage of my pal. He's doing fine and building houses left and right. But it came out of that conversation. It dawned on me. I thought, wow, stay in the boat. Well, we kind of are a vessel. And, as humans, we hit these rough patches in life where we think it's not worth living. And so that's how that song came about.
Wonderful.
We can't know what tomorrow might bring, what surprises will be waiting. Could be the sweetest lover you'll ever know, sent here to teach you a new way to flow. When loneliness bites like a bitter cold night, for the life of you ain't got no reason left to fight. Remember, we're just here on a one-way ticket ride, and all its glory, this is the time of your life. Stay in the boat, boat, it's not your time for goodbyes. This ain't all she wrote, so tear up that note. This is design, so let it shine. Reach out and find your peace of mind and stay in the boat. What makes me think I got something you wanna hear? How could I know about your losses and fears? Well, I've been caught in the storms of life once or twice, and in a moment of panic I almost stepped out on thin ice. Then I heard, stay in the boat, stay in the boat, it's not your time for goodbyes. This ain't all she wrote, so tear up that note. This is design, let it shine. Reach out and find your peace of mind and stay in the boat. We come into this world on a wing and a prayer, come tumbling and right out of air. We grab on tight for the ride of our life. When it's time to go, don't you know we'll turn down the light. Stay in the boat, stay in the boat, it's not your time for goodbyes. This ain't all she wrote, so tear up that note. This is design, let it shine. Reach out and find your peace of mind and stay in the boat. Stay in the boat. Stay in the boat.
Wonderful. Have you any idea how many songs you've written? I'm not talking about chorus now, but just from your own state.
I don't know. I really don't. I've never kept count.
Would it be hundreds?
Oh, yeah.
Or thousands?
I don't know the thousands, but the interesting thing is I made 1,000 attempts.
Yeah.
But songs are funny little animals. They if it feels like it's viable and it's going to go somewhere, well, as a songwriter yourself, you'll finish it. And it may not be something that you even come back to, but I will. But if it's a song, I'm at a spot now where I know if it's something to pursue or whether it's just going to kind of fizzle out. And I'm a bit lazy, so I won't chase after it if it's not coming. And it's but you never know. I mean, I've started songs that took me 10 minutes to write. And then that I love dearly, and then songs that took me 10 months.
Yeah.
So,
how important do you think is it as a songwriter to stand back from your work or to get external commentary on a song? Is that important at all?
I think that if you believe in the song and you feel like the message is being delivered, then stand by it. If you're a young songwriter and you're playing it for folks and they're thinking, what? I'm not sure I follow what you're saying. Find out, because it's a craft. If you want to be good at communicating with people, they need to be able to understand what it is you're saying. And the more you write, the better you'll get. So that's another thing. It's like, if you think about the person who's doing any kind of arts and crafts, a potter, for example. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had the chance to try to create a bowl with a piece of clay. I mean, they do it and they just it looks like they stick their finger in and all of a sudden, here's a bowl. Yeah. And you go like, wow, that's amazing. Let me try. And it's like, it's just a piece of clay somebody has abused. But the more you do it, the better you will get. And it's true. I mean, there are a few people that show up that can write a song off the top of just from get-go. And it's just, you go, oh, my goodness, that's amazing. they're far and in between. The rest of us just have to work at it. So practice is the key.
You played a beautiful guitar in those songs earlier on. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It looks like a handed.
It is a guitar that James Goodall and his son made. They're both master luthiers, and they make a really fine instrument. And I'm not even sure when I first played a Goodall guitar, but I remember playing it and thinking, wow, this has a beautiful tone. And I was actually looking at one that I just picked up off the rack, so to speak, at a store in Durham, North Carolina, that I thought sounded really nice. And I played it and really enjoyed it. But I thought, I really wanted, this had some heba wood, I think it was, which was a very hard Mexican wood, and so it was a little harsh sounding. And I really wanted to have a custom guitar for myself. Never had one. I thought, well, this is what I do. Why don't I splurge and do this for me? And I was about to have a big birthday, so I contacted the company and spoke to James and gave him all of my specs, what I wanted from it, and the cedar top and the rosewood sides and so on and so forth. And it was fun. They kept me informed of where it was in the process, and I sent them music of mine so that they knew what I was doing. And it was a good marriage. They came back with this guitar that I just love. It just has a really beautiful voice. It plays very well. It's easy to play, and it can be very precise and quiet, or I can just really bark. Yeah.
There's one more song I'd like to play as part of this little interview, and Love Says It Best. Great song, great title. Can you give us a little bit of the background on that, please?
Well, that was a song that came about rather quickly, actually. It was a Sunday evening. A friend of mine, my best friend, that was in hospice, and he was down in Atlanta, so he's about 7 or 8 hours from me. And I wanted to do something for him, and ended up writing that song. I was able to send him just some basic tracks, not even tracks, just a guitar vocal that he could hear, that he listened to before he passed. But there was a kind of a backstory with the song, the lyrics. He was an amazing human, just a great person. He was a professional wealth manager. He wasn't even really a songwriter, but he was a good songwriter. And that's how we connected. He came to one of my retreats. And he always amazed me that he was unflappable. Somebody could be right in his face yelling at him, and he was just, oh, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I'm like, I'd have been, but he was just so calm and cool about it. And I learned lots from him. He was an amazing fella. I went to his memorial service, and there were almost 1,800 people there. I thought, wow, he had touched so many lives, and we were best pals. I miss him. So Chuck, that song goes out to you.
What's the plan for your new album? Is there a title or anything like that yet? Or?
I have a title that is I'm sticking to, I hope, called Terra Firma, which means planet, Earth, and you stand on terra firma when you're standing on the ground. And I started that song in Goedrede, down here in Holland, just writing on the back garden of this home, right off the canal, and I probably wrote on it for a year until I got it the way I wanted to. And it speaks about being here in Holland and life in this part of the world, and then it kind of touches back to World War II, and then it comes up. It's a bit of a story, journey song is what I want to say, and I think that's still that's going to be the title of the
Very much
record.
looking forward to hearing it.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm a little intimidated because I want the song to be so well recorded that it's on my list to do when I get back, is record that song. So
Very much looking forward to hearing the
Yeah.
new album. The songs are amazing. Lovely to meet you here today. Thank you
my
for your
pleasure.
time and your talent.
thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure. It really has. And
Hopefully see you down the road.
you will. Cheers.
Cheers.
I once asked a friend of mine how he could stay so calm in the face of another's anger. He replied with his usual charm. He said, I'm not here to judge another, how to shame them or to be cruel. You see, when I was just a child, I was taught the fruits of the golden rule. You do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It may sound old-fashioned, but it'll always ring true. Open your heart, let go of the rest. All you have to do is try. Love says it best. A man of faith like no other man I've ever known, with an unshakable knowing that we're never alone. And the lessons that he taught me are still trying hard to break through. I still struggle with the notion I could have that same faith too. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It may sound old-fashioned, but it'll always ring true. Open your heart, let go of the rest. All you have to do is try. Love says it best. Love says it best. Love says it best. Love says it best. When a harsh word is spoken, promise is broken, you begin to wonder what's the use. Now that's when these words ring loud and true. Love one another, we're all sisters and brothers. We're here to help each other. That's what we're meant to do. Open your heart, let go of the rest. Love says it best. Love says it best. Love says